Welcome! You're watching an Infinite Flight air traffic control tutorial, and in this video you're invited to follow along with the Perfect ATC Test. Our expert server ATC team is made up of qualified members who complete a knowledge exam and practical tests much like the one you'll see here. No two tests are the same, and you may be met with varying scenarios or airports, but the fundamental procedures remain the same. I'll talk you through various aspects of the ATC test while also allowing you to sit back, relax, and watch the scenario play out. Let's begin. As we kick off the test, the first thing I want to do is begin taking an inventory of the aircraft parked around my airport. I'm looking at gates, various parking spots, and what I'm doing is just seeing who's going to conflict with one another should they call and request pushback. So the first one to call is Golf 2326. They've requested pushback. I don't see a conflict, so I issue pushback approved and to expect runway 14 left.
Quebec Juliet X-ray, pushback approved, expect runway 14 left.
Again, here I don't see a conflict if they push back at the same time, so I issue pushback approved for runway 14 left.
November 623 Kilo Bravo, ready for pushback.
November 623 Kilo Bravo, pushback approved, expect runway 14 left.
Pushback approved. November 623 Kilo Bravo.
Toulouse-Blagnac ground, November 1148 Golf, ready for pushback.
Another aircraft to call me is November 1148 Golf. I don't see any conflict on the other side of the field, but I am going to tell them to expect runway 14 right, just to be able to run two separate patterns and keep aircraft going to all available runways. Now this is the first potential conflict I see. November Romeo Bravo Whiskey has requested pushback, but there's an aircraft directly behind them, so I'm going to go and tell them to hold position until the conflict no longer exists.
Bravo Whiskey, hold position. Holding position, November Romeo Bravo.
Now we do have a problem to work out. Golf 2326 is requesting taxi, but I have an aircraft directly ahead of them, so I'm already thinking about using progressive taxi instructions, but I'm going to start by telling them to taxi to runway 14 left, just so they have a runway assignment. Then we'll deal with the specific instructions next. I open my progressive taxi instruction menu, select expect progressive taxi instructions, and I let them know to take a left at the next taxiway directly ahead of them.
2326, turn left next taxiway.
Left on the next taxiway, Golf 2326.
IFATC, pushback approved, expect runway 14 right.
Pushback approved, IFATC.
Now that they're established in the left turn, I'm going to go ahead and tell them to turn right on the next taxiway. Once they're established on that parallel taxiway to 14 left, I'll let them know that they can continue taxiing at their own discretion.
Turn right next taxiway.
Toulouse-Blagnac ground, November 623 Kilo Bravo, ready to taxi.
Right on the next taxiway, Golf 2326.
Okay, the next conflict we want to look at. Quebec Juliet X-ray is rated taxi to 14 left, so again I issue that taxi instruction, and I let them know to give way to the aircraft directly to their left. Now let's move on to November 623 Kilo Bravo, again taxi to runway 14 left, but I want them to follow the aircraft ahead, so I open my progressive taxi menu and select follow aircraft ahead. Now you'll see from here we've deconflicted this entire ground problem, and they're all going to follow one another to runway 14 left. Now I'm looking at November Romeo Bravo Whiskey. There's no conflict for him, and I issue a pushback instruction for runway 14 left.
Follow aircraft ahead.
Wilco, November 623 Kilo Bravo.
November Romeo Bravo Whiskey, pushback approved, expect runway 14 left. Pushback approved, November Romeo Bravo Whiskey.
Toulouse-Blagnac Tower, Golf 2326, ready for takeoff at runway 14 left, remaining in the pattern.
Now that all of our aircraft are approaching their respective runways, the next thing I want to start thinking about is my departures. Do I use line up and wait? Do I simply clear them? What sort of departure rhythm do I want to establish? Of course, the first aircraft, there's no conflict. I don't see anybody on final, so I issue a takeoff clearance for runway 14 left with left traffic. Now I'm using parallel runways and anticipating lots of pattern work, so I want to keep them completely separate. Runway 14 left departures go left, runway 14 right departures go right. You deconflict them from the start, and then we can handle any potential issues later.
Toulouse-Blagnac Tower, Quebec Juliet X-ray, ready for takeoff at runway 14 left, remaining in the pattern.
Okay, again, I'm talking about departure rhythm, so Quebec Juliet X-ray has requested takeoff, but my first departure for runway 14 left is already rolling. So using anticipated separation, I'm clearing them for takeoff runway 14 left, knowing that that first aircraft will be airborne before they begin their departure roll.
Toulouse Blagnac Tower, IFAE2, ready for takeoff at runway 14 right, remaining in the pattern.
IFAE2, runway 14 right, cleared for takeoff, make right traffic.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 14 right, IFAE2.
Toulouse Blagnac Tower, November 623 Kilo Bravo, ready for takeoff at runway 14 left, remaining in the pattern.
Alright, now in this case, November 623 Kilo Bravo is requested takeoff, but the aircraft on runway 14 left has not begun their takeoff roll just yet, so I'm going to go ahead and issue a lineup and wait for runway 14 left, and this allows me to ensure that I have my departure separation. The same thing is happening here on 14 right. That aircraft hasn't started rolling, so I go ahead and let them know to line up and wait for runway 14 right. As soon as I know that I have my separation, I issue my takeoff clearances.
November 623 Kilo Bravo, runway 14 left, cleared for takeoff, make left traffic.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 14 left, November 623 Kilo Bravo.
November Romeo Bravo Whiskey, line up and wait runway 14 left. Line up and wait runway.
Okay, so we have a pretty clear departure rhythm here with the line up and wait, clear for takeoff, line up and wait, clear for takeoff. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit and start focusing on the aircraft that are airborne. The first one is Golf 2326. I'm going to go ahead and clear them for the option, runway 14 left. Remember, if they're remaining in the pattern, they're likely doing touch and goes. We're going to clear them for the option, which allows them to do a full stop, touch and go, low approach, stop and go, or a missed approach.
Traffic on left downwind, Quebec Juliet X-ray.
November 1148 Golf, runway 14 right, cleared for takeoff, make right traffic. Cleared for takeoff, runway 14 right, November 1148 Golf, Quebec Juliet X-ray, number 2, runway 14 left, cleared for the option.
Number 2, cleared for the option, runway 14 left.
Okay, at this point, all of the aircraft that were on the ground have been cleared for takeoff, either in left or right traffic. So my big focus here is on sequencing and clearing. You can see November 623 Kilo Bravo is making his left crosswind turn. I don't waste any time. I go ahead and sequence him as number 3 to follow Quebec Juliet X-ray. And I'll begin clearing them right away as well. You don't need to wait until they're base or final. You can clear them at any point where you feel comfortable and confident that their sequence and clearance is going to remain the same.
Cleared for the option.
Number 1. Cleared for the option, runway 14 right, IFAE2.
November 623 Kilo Bravo, number 3, runway 14 left, cleared for the option.
Number 3, cleared for the option, runway 14 left, November 623 Kilo Bravo.
November 1148 Golf, number 2, traffic to follow is on right down.
Again, November 1148 Golf, they're right off the departure end for runway 14 right. I'm not wasting any time. I've already sequenced them as number 2 to follow IFAE2. While I have everything under control, that's a great time for me to zoom out, take a look at my airspace, see if anybody's inbound, maybe any potential conflicts for the aircraft that I already have in my traffic pattern.
Cleared for the option. Number 2, cleared for the option, runway 14 right, November 1148 Golf. November Romeo Bravo Whiskey, number 4, traffic to follow is on left downwind. Number 4, behind the traffic on left downwind, November Romeo Bravo Whiskey.
Alright, so we've got something to work with here. November Romeo Bravo Whiskey is requesting a runway change. With a runway change or an inbound, we need to issue a pattern entry instruction. So I'm letting them know to enter left downwind for runway 14 right. And they're number 3 following November 1148 Golf.
Enter left downwind runway 14 right, number 3, traffic.
So remember, your sequences are always going to be separate depending on which runway they're going to. So my 14 left sequence is completely separate from my 14 right. The next thing I want to do here is go ahead and clear November Romeo Bravo Whiskey for the option on runway 14 right, but the big thing is I want to make sure that they go into right traffic once they're on the go. I always work to deconflict my two patterns, so 14 left is making left traffic, anybody going to 14 right is going to make right traffic. Alright, out to the east we have Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra calling for a transition. The first thing I'm thinking about is my field elevation, which is 500 feet, and then I'm also thinking about the aircraft in my pattern, who are at 2,000 feet. So I'm going to issue a transition at 3,000, which gives me 1,000 feet of separation from my transition to the aircraft that are currently in the traffic pattern. Alright, we fast forward into our scenario a little bit, and I have Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra. They're getting closer to the field as a transition, so I'm already thinking about where I might want to put them should they call inbound, but my main focus here is on November 1148 Golf, who is a full stop for runway 14 right, with traffic on short final right behind them. I'm already noticing that the spacing is probably not going to work. The traffic on final for 14 right is on a 2-mile final, so I'm going to be extremely proactive here, and once I'm 100% certain it's not going to work, I'll go ahead and issue that go-around for right traffic. Now, immediately when I do this, I'm expecting a climb, and I'm expecting them to fly runway heading.
Contact ground on the taxiway. Wilco, November 1148 Golf.
My next focus is on getting the aircraft on runway 14 right off and exited to the right. Now let's start taking a look at how this scenario is going to play out. I'm noticing that Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra is getting a little bit closer. I want to build some space here just in case they call in. So I'm going to go ahead and tell November Romeo Bravo Whiskey to extend upwind. I'm going to call their crosswind, and this builds a perfect hole should Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra call inbound.
Request taxi to parking.
Number 3, behind the traffic on left downwind, Golf 2326.
November 1148 Golf, taxi to parking. Taxiing to parking, November 1148 Golf.
Alright, so here I've got Golf 2326. They want a runway change. Remember, it's just a pattern entry with the sequence. So enter left downwind, runway 14 right. Number 2 following IFATC. At the same time, Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra is also called inbound. So inbounds and runway changes get a pattern entry. So I've told them to enter right downwind for 14 right, and they're going to be number 3. My upwind traffic is no longer a factor, so I let them know that they can turn crosswind. You can see everything's working out perfectly here. I've got IFA2, who's number 1. They're turning base. Golf 2326 is number 2 to 14 right. Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra is number 3. And November Romeo Bravo Whiskey is number 4. Now, with aircraft on both ends of the pattern, sometimes it can get confusing if you feel like you need more positive control, or you just want to ensure that nobody turns base at the wrong time. You can let them know that you'll call their base. Oftentimes the sequence is plenty and it's not needed, but in this case I'm going to go ahead and let Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra know that I'm going to call their base, just because I don't want them to get confused with who they're following.
Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra, extend downwind, I'll call your base.
You'll call my base. Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra.
November Romeo Bravo Whiskey.
As I do this, I'm just taking the opportunity to sequence anybody that hasn't gotten a sequence yet, issue any landing clearances that I need to, and just keeping an eye on my airspace. So I'm looking at Golf 2326. They're already on the left base, so I know that the order so far as I intended it is good. So once I know that the spacing is alright, I'll allow Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra to also turn base, and then I'll issue that clearance. So here we open our pattern instructions, let them know they can turn base, and I'll issue a clearance.
Quebec Juliet X-ray, requesting departure to the north.
Alpha 8 Juliet Sierra.
Now let's go back to the next request. Quebec Juliet X-ray requested to depart my airspace, so I'll go ahead and approve the departure request to the direction that they asked for. And I'm just going to keep them on my frequency until I know there's not a conflict.
Cleared to land. Runway 14 right.
The main thing I'm looking for Quebec Juliet X-ray is just that the aircraft for 14 left doesn't attempt to follow them, or that there's no sort of potential conflict as far as collisions go.
Number 3, cleared for the auction, runway 14 right, November Romeo.
Now we take a look at 14 right. I've got an aircraft exiting. I know they're going to make the exit based on the speed and proximity to the next available taxiway, so I'm not worried about a go-around scenario here for the traffic that's on short final. We're just going to keep an eye on it, let it play out, and I see here that I've got my separation. Now, taking a look at Quebec Juliet X-ray, I also see that there's no conflict because the aircraft that's turning left crosswind for 14 left, they're not trying to follow them, they're not in close proximity, and Quebec Juliet X-ray is climbing out of my airspace. So I issue that frequency change, and it's one less aircraft we need to worry about.
Frequency change approved. Quebec Juliet X-ray. Good day.
Toulouse Blagnac ground. IFAE2. Request taxi to parking.
IFAE2, taxi to parking.
Again, while it's slow, always take the opportunity to make sure that nobody's been forgotten as far as sequences or clearances go, there's no potential conflicts, and everybody's going to the correct runway that you intended. The next one that's going to call me is Golf 2326. They're going to request a departure out of my airspace to the east. Immediately, I recognize that there's no conflict for them, they're basically flying straight out. So in this case, you can approve that departure request, and right after I'm issuing a frequency change. If they're flying away from your airspace, they're climbing out of your airspace, there's no conflict, it's always best to go and issue them a frequency change, let them go over to approach if it's available, or departure, or simply clear up your flight progress strip list. If you're interested in joining our expert server ATC team, head over to our community forum and follow the instructions found in our ATC recruiting topic, also linked in the description below. Of course, if you found this video helpful, give us a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Be sure you follow us on social media at Infinite Flight, and as always, I'll see you next time.